Where did you get the idea for NWO? Because this is yours. This is nobody else's idea but yours.
The idea for the NWO came to me over a period of time. It wasn't like a light bulb going off in my head. But I had been over to Japan quite a bit and had just been amazed at the way business was conducted in Japan. And we talked about this last night with Jim Ross a little bit. You know, in Japan at the time, going back into the early 90s, the press, the media, people looked at professional wrestling the same way they looked at soccer, you know, or sumo. They treated it like real sports. You know, you go to a big event, it was on the front page of the sports page the following day. And I was trying to figure out a way to create that kind of reality or perception within our product. And I was just learning about the psychology, if you will, that took place in Japan at that time. And there was a lot of that invasion kind of storylines.
Yeah. Company versus company.
Yeah, it was company versus company. So that's where it came from, really. I wanted to create that.
Can I interrupt for a second? So you were trying to create they being them, the WWF, by taking characters that have been established there and saying they, because you never said WWF, and I know that, but it was like, well, who are they fighting for? Who are they? And the perception from our vantage point was like WWF against WCW when Razor and Diesel came in.
But and I'm not going to lie to you, that it wasn't like that thought didn't occur to me, but it really wasn't the whole idea. Look, Scott Hall had been to WCW before we went to WWF. Same with Kevin Nash. The premise, in my mind, the largest part of that premise, was that these were guys that had been in WCW, were treated like shit, didn't make any money, were disrespected, went to the WWF, became big stars, and now they were coming back to get revenge. We're going to show you what happens when you treat us like shit. We're taking over. That was the premise. And yes, we were aware of the fact that certain people would think, oh, they would be curious as to see if there was going to be a war between WWF and WCW. Of course, we were aware of that. But that wasn't the driving force behind that idea.
Was your original thought to have 3 guys? Or 10 guys? Or 2 guys? Or 1 guy?
No, it was 3. I knew right off the bat we were going to have.
Did you know you wanted to be Hall, Nash, and Hogan?
Well, yes, but it started out with Scott Hall. We knew Kevin Nash was coming down the pipe. I wasn't sure who the third guy was going to be, but we knew there was going to be a third guy.
Now, once again, at the time, this is another huge buzz in the business. Luger and Medusa and this. Were you guys feeling that it's starting to slip through our fingers, or was it the classic Vince arrogance of, oh, whatever, who cares?
On the outside, it was a classic Vince arrogance. God, creativity will beat them every time. They're just copying us. But there was a feeling of a lot of guys going that way, and people are starting to look at, well, what am I really worth? And so now they're starting to bend the ear at WCW and say, hey, got anything for me? And we weren't the big dogs, the only game in town anymore. And everybody was saying, well, you know what? If I don't work here, I could go there. And we didn't want anybody to go there, especially there. So I think there was a feeling, honestly, Matt, I think there was a feeling of we have to change. We have to look at the way we do business and reevaluate. So there was a little, I hate to say the word fear because it wasn't fearful. It was just, what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm. So tell us how Hogan became involved with the NWO. That was the missing piece that took it over the top.
You know, I had gone to see Hulk. I know you guys have probably heard this and read this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that history too much. But to keep it in context, I had gone to Hulk about a year or so before and tried to convince him to change his character. Got a kayfabe, it's just my nature. But and he politely showed me to the door. You know, he was very nice about it, but he basically, you know, he stroked his Fu Manchu and every time he stroked his Fu Manchu, I know I was going to get shown the door one way or the other. He started stroking his Fu Manchu and said, brother, you'll never understand it. Until you walk a mile in my red and yellow boots, you'll never really understand it. Okay. And then he went off to go do a movie. And in the meantime, Scott Hall happened, Kevin Nash happened. I was watching the audience react to it, and so was Hulk. He was off in California doing a movie called Santa with Muscles, actually. I'll never forget. And I hadn't talked to Hulk in a month or 2 or 3. He was only doing 4 pay-per-views a year with us, and he would only do the TVs associated with those 4 pay-per-views. So I didn't really see him a lot. And I got a call from him. Saying, hey, brother, what are you doing? Come on out to L.A. I want to talk to you about what's going on. And I came to his trailer, drove out on location. We had a 6-pack or a case of beer and a couple of Cuban cigars. And he asked me, who's the third guy? And I wouldn't tell him. I said, I don't know yet, because I didn't know for sure. And he goes, well, I know who it should be. I said, who's that? In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, please tell me you want to do this. And he volunteered because he saw the momentum. He saw the opportunity.
If it wasn't Hulk, did you have another guy in mind?
Yeah, it was going to be Sting.
Sting. Got a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back. Early 96, there were the Billionaire Pet skits, and it seemed like they started off somewhat lighthearted.